and right on cue, our Rep Here team is on a major heater. Following the big hits from last week, our guys crushed yet again, proving why our team is the best in the industry.
BigT led the way, winning over $167K on FanDuel and DraftKings MLB. Dunkel crushed NASCAR with a 100K shipper this weekend. Our Sunday NASCAR team crushes weekly, so subscribe to our YouTube channel today and set your alerts so you don't miss JJ, Keg, and Coop weekly on our free shows. Hoop added to the heater, shipping for 100K on MLB. You can catch Hoop regularly on our daily Swing for the Fences show on YouTube for his rich parents' plays.
Our guys have not been the only ones winning during this heater. Our members benefit from our premium content, including core plays in all major sports. If you haven't signed up yet, what are you waiting for?
Once again, our NBA Showdown show led to a member print fest with RPS logos dominating the leaderboards. Just Your Daddy turned $26 into $5K. JRex 777 won 6,600 and T Robber 6 shipped for over $20K. Finally, NFL Best Ball is in full swing over on Underdog, and you can get a deposit match up to $100 by using the promo code RUNPURE.
That is it for this week, guys. Make sure you head on over to our YouTube channel to check out our Best Ball content, as Simon and Snyder were joined by Josh Larkey this past week to jump into a Best Ball Mania draft. Until next time, keep running pure.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports MLB Swing for the Fences show. I am your host, Mangone. We're here with Hoop. We're here with JT, and it's Friday. So we got to kick it over to you, JT. You got the baseball shirt on. It's a beautiful summer day, so I'm sure you're having a great time. So how is your day going?
Man, it's been hot all week here in Atlanta. Really, really hot, like 100 degrees, a heat index advisor. I played a baseball game last night where it's one of those nights where you didn't have to move. If you just stood around for like more than 2 minutes, you were all of a sudden dripping with sweat. So it was a lot of fun. We won the game, of course, no problem. But it's going to be hot and steamy in a lot of places today, a lot of high totals, a lot of interesting games here. And it's Friday night. We've got you on, which is, we've had DC here and there. And I guess, the internet gods were not kind today, maybe. I couldn't be more excited to see Hoop and Sweet Travis.
Yeah, it should be a great day. I believe DC will be on the premium, not sure, but hopefully that internet holds up. We got Hoop in a new location, so he's out here with us. Hoop, how is it going over there with you?
Yeah, everything's going well on the road today, but, we're going to find some winners. Super hot around the country, like JT alluded to. Tons of runs being scored night in and night out. We have some cheap pitching on both sides, so it's going to be a fun MLB DFS slate. We got Coors, our guy Title is out there somewhere with his pants off, jerking off to the game because it's sitting at a 12.5 total. And the Padres are projected to score like 7. So Title has to be fully nude somewhere, just jumping for joy. But it's going to be a good baseball slate. We have some good pitching, and we'll go through and talk about it all.
Well, I will be jumping for joy with Title, but not today, tomorrow, because I'm going to the game. So I'll have a game stack for sure. You got to have a game stack. We get to watch the Padres and the Rockies, so it should be a fun time. JT, what's your overall slate overview here right now? Obviously, we got the core slate. We've had really interesting slates all week. We've got some really trash pitchers against some big offenses. We've also had Wrigley win game. We've had core. So what's your kind of overall slate thoughts here on this big slate?
Yeah, first of all, we've got to get some pictures posted tomorrow from you at the game. Have to see you out there with a tasty silver bullet, nice Coors Light in your hand at Coors Field. I can't wait to see that. It's a really interesting slate. Hoop mentioned the high total in Coors. You also have two other games where not only is the total at 10.5, but it's been going up here throughout the afternoon. That's the Cardinals in Boston. And then you have the Phillies in Washington. We know all about the Nationals' terrible pitching staff and bullpen. And we know a lot about the Phillies' bad bullpen as well. So those are two games where, and ownership isn't really going to matter here on this slate because of that. You have those totals. You have the Yankees and the Jays in a high total in Toronto with the roof open. You've got the Dodgers against Zach Plesac. The game is in Southern California, so it's not the best hitting environment. Certainly nothing close to the heat that you're going to see in Washington, Boston, and the windy weather in Colorado. But in terms of pitching, it sets up really interesting because as far as the higher price pitchers, the highest price pitcher on this slate on DraftKings is Clayton Kershaw at 10.5. He's making only his second start coming off of the IL, and his first start, he went 4 innings. So I think it's not even where I'm going to try and get cute and say, well, nobody's going to play Kershaw because of this. No, they're not going to mess around with Clayton Kershaw. His ceiling is maybe 6 innings here, so definitely not going to pay that. Carlos Rodon has had an up and down. If you look at his game logs, it looks up and down, but he's had some tough competition. He's been in some difficult spots. Now he gets the Pirates, a team that really has very little power. The Giants are a massive favorite on the road here. So Rodon, I think, is the starting point for me, at least in terms of where I'm looking at 9-9. And then you've got guys in really good matchups. Frankie Montas at the Royals, he's down at 8-3. Robbie Ray, the home runs are back. He finally had a good outing last game. He's nicely priced in a match against the Angels that have been really poor against left-handed pitching. And then you go down a little bit and you see John Gray at 6.9 on DraftKings. And I know that some people are talking about Daniel Lynch in a game with a very low total against the A's in that big ballpark at 6.3. Don't know that I need to go that far, but I think there's enough, even if you didn't want to go to Rodon. You've got Framber Valdez at 8.5 in a matchup against the White Sox, who have some injury issues. They haven't been playing all that well. They're coming off a series where they played against the Tigers. Now they return to the major league. So it's a big step up in competition. I think Framber's interesting for tournaments. Very, very interesting slate.
Yep, definitely very interesting slate, JT. You talked about Hoop talked about title peeling to Coors. Who's peeling the John Gray? Our boy DC. He is peeling the John Gray against the Tigers. That's definitely a spot that we're gonna have to talk about. You mentioned a lot of good pitchers at the top. Hoop, let's go over to you. What are you doing with the pitchers at the top? Because again, Carlos Rodon, pretty good option. You got Clayton Kershaw, people always like putting in their lineups. Tariq Skubal against Texas, and I mean Texas they were brutal yesterday against a pretty bad pitcher. So I'm sure people will take notice of that. Robbie Ray, we always know what the strikeout upside can be, but we always know he can give up the long ball as well. And Mike Trout coming off a 2-home run game against a lefty. You got Frankie Montas against Kansas City, Framber Valdez against the White Sox. I mean, Daniel Lynch is against Oakland for really cheap. Up and down the board, it feels like there's so many options you can go to. So how are you handling the top here?
Yeah, at the top, I mean, I guess overall pitcher's pretty easy for me. There's probably like 5 or 6 guys that I'm going to play tonight. The first one in terms of pricing is Rodon at 9.9K. Great matchup here against Pittsburgh. I mean, could really have a ceiling game. So in on Rodon. Skubal, like him, obviously a lot here, home against Texas. He's been pitching phenomenally well. Robbie Ray has the upside, as long as he can avoid those big bats in Trout and Ohtani. I'm fine with Valdez. And then Montas, I like a ton at 8.3K. It's a good matchup here at home in this ballpark against Kansas City. He's a guy they let work deep into games, typically throws a lot of pitches on most nights as long as everything's going well. So, those 4 or 5 guys I like a ton, and it's going to be, again, a slate for me where I'm going to build my teams. I'm going to come back and I'm going to try to grab 2 of the pitchers that I like. And there's a couple below this upper tier that we'll get to when we move on. But, those are the 4 or 5 guys that I like up top, feel great about them, and just going to kind of mix and match them throughout my lineups.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to like at the top. And you can make some cuts too. Like, don't feel like you have to play all of them, right? Even though there are some good names, like you can make a case, Carlos Carrasco against Miami. Definitely not a bad spot to go to. There's definitely a lot of good options up here. JT, how are you narrowing down the pool up top? Give me some of your thoughts on Montas, right? Are you just going to jam him in there even though he's one of the chalkier options? Robbie Ray, how are you handling him? It does feel like ownership is going to be pretty spread out though at the pitching position tonight.
It is. I don't think you're going to see anyone higher. At least projections right now show about 33% on Rodon. I think Montas is maybe the highest owned, looking like coming in at 40%. I don't really worry about that with him in this situation, in this environment, in that park against a Royals team that really hasn't been doing much. They really almost need a park boost at this point to have any type of efficiency to their offense. So I think the way I'm going to handle it is if I can get Rodon, I'm going to play Rodon. It's not a situation where I'm going to lock him in here because some of these offenses that are going to score a lot of runs tonight are somewhat priced up. Now, most of them also have like a min price guy or two that you can put in there. But if you want to pair one of these teams like the Padres and the Phillies or the Padres and the Red Sox, whatever it is, then you're going to have to get lower. And, I was talking to Hoop and you before the show went live that I like John Gray. I think John Gray's price point is good here. He's been pitching really well. The Tigers, it doesn't look like a high implied total at 4.2, but it's the highest implied total I've seen for that team in like 2 weeks, it feels like. So they showed a little bit of life yesterday. They still didn't score any runs. So I'm not all that concerned about it, but I think Gray is an interesting option. Schoolball, this Texas team, he certainly has a strikeout upside. This Texas team hasn't done a lot offensively against lefties recently, but they also haven't struck out quite as much. So I don't know at that 9K price point, it's one of those situations where I probably won't be able to pair him with Rodon, and I would rather play Rodon in that matchup.
All right, JT, I do want to go back to you real quick. And the reason why is we got Colin in the chat. He says, we need the Friday 300 likes bomb, run it up. We're at 100, 304 watching. What's the word, JT? How many likes are you trying to get to here on this one?
Yeah, we got 304 watching. As people filter in, it is for many people in this country a long weekend now. So Monday being Juneteenth, we've got that off for a lot of people. I think as people hop in here to check out what's going on, see what the plays are, we're going to get to 450. I like 300. Let's stick with 300. It's been good to us. I think we got there. Actually, we didn't get there on Sunday. It was disappointing if I remember, but let's stick with 300. We'll see, depending on the ratio of how many are watching to the number we get, if we want to be a little lenient at the end. We were rough this week. I know you guys did a show maybe last night, a couple of nights ago, where they just didn't get there, and that's it. Everything went into the Discord. So we'll see what happens at the end of the show.
Yeah, and JT, speaking of Sunday, guess who you don't have to hang out with on Sunday now, JT?
Well, I always love Holden, but I mean, the opportunity to see you 2 out of 3 days on the weekend when you can tell us about your Coors Field experience. I mean, I'm giddy right now. I might not sleep all weekend waiting to hear how your weekend was and work with you again on Sunday morning.
Yep, should be a fun time. I'll be on the Sunday show. Obviously, it'll be Happy Father's Day to everyone. So come hang out with us if you get a chance, right? Should be fun. We'll be sweating some baseball, sweating some golf. We cannot sweat the NBA Finals anymore, which is unfortunate. I was hoping the Celtics to get the job done. They did not, but that's okay. We'll still have a lot of sports going on over here. It'll be after a nice, fun UFC card as well. So should be a good time. Hoop, let me go back to you. So you kind of mentioned a pretty narrow pitching pool there. Do you think this is like a good slate to narrow it down? Or you think it's better to spread it out and then like load up on an offense? I think you might be right. Maybe you narrow down the pitching, even though it kind of feels difficult. So how do you rank like maybe your like top 4 to 5 pitchers here on this slate?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think you want to get cute at pitcher. Like the good pitchers are too cheap. I mean, all these guys that we talked about for the most part could be like $1,000 more expensive, and they're just simply not. So I just don't want to get too cute at the pitcher position. Outside of these guys up top, yeah, I'm good to play John Gray. I mean, he's showing some big upside, gets his Tigers offense, which is a disaster. And then the last guy that I might consider would be what does Title call him? Dusty Daniel Lynch, right? I think that's what Title always calls him. I would potentially consider him if I just got like everything I wanted on offense and I needed to go down to Dusty Daniel Lynch, as Title calls him. But for me, in terms of ranking these guys, Rodon, it would be my priority. If I get up to him, the matchup is just too good. Montas, the price is just too good. Then maybe, Scooble and Ray would be the next two, but, I'm also fine with like John Gray, like I said. So it's kind of where I'm at. Those are the 5 or 6 guys I'm going to use. And, I'm not going to be too picky about who I get in my line. It's more worried about what I get offensively today.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a good day for offense. We'll obviously get in there and break that down here shortly. You guys could please like and subscribe to the video. Already a great response, right? 44. So keep those things coming. Also subscribe to the channel when you can get notified when we go live with all of our content. We got PGA Showdown content. We just had our MMA show earlier. So we got a ton of stuff coming for you guys here over at Run Pure Sports. So go sign up now. You don't want to miss out on that. You don't want to miss out on SaberSim as well. If you do not use an optimizer, it's a great tool to help you build out lineups and make some better teams. And it's something that we all use. So you should definitely get on that if you're taking DFS seriously. And hey, maybe you're just playing for some fun. You don't have to get it yet, but hey, if you have that big hit, it's not bad to get in there and start taking it a little more seriously for sure. Because hand building is great, but the optimizer can definitely help you, find some stuff that maybe you can't find just by hand building up your teams. JT, let me go over to you. Give me your final thoughts here on the pitcher position, because I kind of agree with some of Hoop's thoughts, and I think you really just want to kind of narrow it down here a bit. Like Rodon is one that I'm definitely keying in on. I think I like Frankie Montas more than like Ray or Valdez in that range, and then I really like John Gray, and I don't mind Dusty Daniel Lynch, but I think if I have to pick, I think it's Gray over Lynch for me. What are kind of some of your rankings here to close out pitching?
Yeah, I mean, Rodon is the guy that I'm going to prioritize, and I've been toying with the idea here the last few days. I've done it on a few slates this season of finding that one pitcher that I really like, that I think is either due for a big outing or projects really well, props really well. Rodon fits that bill here of a guy that you consider locking in on this slate and moving from there and then splitting it around your other starting pitchers, right? So you go, let's say 95% Rodon, and then you're going to get 35% of the other 3-4 guys that you like, depending on how your offense shakes out. If you're right in this scenario, then you could have a really big night, because now most of your lineups have one of the top 2 or 3 scoring pitchers, and you're off to the races. If you're wrong, it's going to be a bad night. But in this matchup, Rodon, price point, Giants a huge favorite on the road. There's just very little to fear in this Pirates offense. It's a good stadium for pitchers. So I think that's how I'm going to approach it. And honestly, there's not a pitcher that we talked about there's not a pitcher that we didn't talk about that I'm really all that interested in, right? I mean, Carlos Carrasco on a different slate at 9,100 in a home matchup against the Marlins, I might be interested in. I'm just not here. Because if I'm going to pay that, I'm going to play Rodon, and I'm going to find a way to get up to him. And if I'm going to go lower, I'm going to go much lower than 9,100.
All right, that's enough for pitching. Let's dive into the games. And we're going game by game here to break it all down. Obviously, it's a big slate. We're not going to have a couple of the games that are earlier, right? The 6:05 game's not on the slate. The 6:40 game's not on the slate. So, don't worry about those. Don't worry about the Reds and Brewers. Maybe you're playing a 2-game slate, go for it, but we're not covering that. We're covering the Phillies and the Nationals. It starts at 7:05, and it's a 10.5 total with Bailey Falter and Paulo Espino. So, Hoop, I think this is a good spot to go to the Phillies. I mean, the Phillies have a pretty high total. They've been hitting the ball really well. This Nationals bullpen is pretty taxed. I mean, it seems like a perfect spot. It's 90 degrees. I mean, how do we avoid the Phillies? And I don't think the Nationals mini stack is the worst idea as well as like a little bit of a game stack here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a game with a huge total. I mean, sitting at 10.5, the Nationals pitching staff as a whole is pretty bad. And that's why you're seeing this almost 6 team total for the Phillies here on the road. It's just a really, really good spot. When the game goes to the bullpen, they have an advantage. They have advantage right out of the gate, and they have some big bats that can do a ton of damage here today with this, going against this pitching staff and this, weather. So you get, Schwarber, Bryce Harper are 2 premier plays in this lineup. You get a good catcher in Real Muto, Hoskins, Castellanos, and I'm willing to even go down and play some of these like cheaper bets too at the bottom. We don't have the lineup yet, which is a little weird because this game does start in like 2 hours, but it will come out here at some point. And, more likely than not, I'm going to be willing to just play every single bat in this Phillies lineup. And then the Nationals, I think, are in play as well. I mean, it's not a great team, offensively, but it's a really good spot here. They get the same weather conditions, obviously 90 degrees, a little wind blowing out to right field. And they're going to be much, much lower owned. We have the Phillies in a really good spot. We have the Coors game. We have that Boston game. The Nationals are going to go overlooked here. I want both sides. Obviously, the Phillies will have a decent chunk of ownership, but the Nationals will not, and really, really like the Nationals today as well. So great game to target for offensive pieces on both sides.
Yep, definitely a really, really good game. Like you don't want to ignore it. Ownership, it's not going to matter as much today, but you can always make the argument even on these slates. I think you can always argue, well, whatever's the highest owned one, you can get away from, or just find a way to make it different, right? If there's a piece that's going to be like, sometimes they get steamed up. Sometimes it gets steamed up like 50%. These like a guy like a Rhys Hoskins, that can happen sometimes, or like a Kyle Schwarber. But again, I'm not that worried about it on this slate. JT, let me go over to you. How are you handling this Phillies and Nationals game? And do you think the Phillies are like the most popular offense today? Or do you think everyone's over there with title just peeling the Coors Field?
No, I think people are going to be on the Padres in a 17 total against Kyle Freeland. But Bailey Falter against Paolo Espino seems like a game that should end like 19-17, right? With these bullpens behind them. And Brian M. in the chat mentions it's the second game of a doubleheader. The situation played out a couple of nights ago where the Cards and the Pirates played game 2 of a doubleheader. Very similar conditions, very hot, wind blowing out, shitty pitchers. And the Cardinals were on the winner because basically they came in at like 5 to 7% that night. And I was watching a little bit of that game today. There was a fly ball hit to right field. Juan Soto went back on it. Juan Soto is a very good defensive outfielder. Kept going back and the ball just kept flying. Ultimately stopped about 3 feet on the track, bounced behind him. So with Falter and Espino, who are by any metric you look at, 2 of the worst pitchers on the slate, Josh Bell has been absolutely on fire, hit a home run in game 1, hit a home run in last night's game. So this game, as far as a game stack, that I don't think will be nearly as highly owned as it would be otherwise, because again, you've got a 10.5 total in Boston. You've got a 12.5 total in Coors Field. And I like this a lot.
Yeah, JT, one more thing I'll ask you. I think that everyone's saying the lineup's out, which it probably literally just came out and we don't have it yet. But they're saying no Harper for what's it called? No Harper for the second lineup. Do you worry because they played an early game and like maybe they have a little bit of tired legs here, JT?
No, not really. That game wasn't too high scoring. I think it ended 5-1. And I'm only sad that Harper isn't in the lineup because if he was, he'd be like 40% owned, and then you could play the rest of the Phillies who are actually hitting. So I still like it the same. I'm not particularly concerned here about the tired legs. Don't matter when you're being thrown batting practice. So it's a really good environment, and I like this game a lot.
All right, sounds good. Let's move on over to the next game. Let's talk about the Giants and the Pirates. And the Giants, I typically like to have some interest in them on the road, but the problem is they're on the road in Pittsburgh, and that's not a park I really like to target, even though Zach Thompson is a guy that I think we can. And then we're not targeting Carlos Rodon. Like, that's just absolutely like money on fire, it seems like, on this slate. Let's go over to you, Hoop. Giants, Pirates is a quick pass and move on to the next one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a somewhat appealing spot, I think, for the Giants. I mean, obviously, this isn't a great, hitters ballpark, but, they're on the road here, guaranteed the 9 at bats. The problem with the Giants is the same problem that I've talked about for the last, for a long time. I just haven't been playing the Giants because of their propensity to pinch hit for these guys, and it seems like they do it all game long, every game, whenever they get the chance. If a lefty comes in, you could lose Luis Gonzalez, you could lose Yastrzemski, you could lose Jock Peterson. I just don't have interest in gambling on that and losing at bats. It just, to me, it's enough for me, especially in these fuller type slates, to go ahead and just get off of the Giants. So not going to be on the Giants, definitely not playing the Pirates here tonight.
Cool. Yeah, not that interested in this game either. JT, are you interested in this game? I think it's just a quick pass for me.
I'm pretty much on the side of Hoop here because I think it was a 4 or 5 game slate the other night and they were in a really good spot. And like you said, the 5th inning, they brought in, the other team brings in a different arm, a different arm from the other side or whatever. And all of a sudden he's, Kapler's sitting like his, guys like Peterson, guys like Evan Longoria got pinch hit for in the 5th inning. There's 2 guys I will make available in my pool so that if I want to do a 5-2, I'll get a couple with them. And that's Brandon Belt, who's back and healthy if he's in the lineup. And then Mike Yastrzemski, he's less likely than those 2 guys are less likely than anyone else. Maybe Crawford, but I'm not interested in him here. But I think those 2 guys, just because the Pirates bullpen is just nothing to offer.
Cool. Let's move on to the next one. And the next one's Yankees and the Jays. And hey, this is in Toronto. We got Montgomery versus Stripling. Not really a spot I'm like dying to go to. I will say Aaron Judge, 3.6K though on FanDuel, pretty good price tag. And these Yankees can always like hit the ball at the park. So I don't want to ignore this Yankees team completely. And like, you could always make the case for Blue Jays against a lefty. The problem is I don't think I want to attack Jordan Montgomery on this slate. Coop, what are you doing with this game? Because it's still one we can't ignore. It's a 9.5 total. It's definitely not one that you should just like write off completely.
Yeah, I mean, you look at these offenses, and obviously they're, all things neutral. They're two premier offenses in Major League Baseball. I'm more interested in the Yankees side than the Blue Jays side because I think Montgomery is good enough. And on the slate, like I think if you're stacking an offense, they're probably going to have to put up like 10 runs tonight for you to win something because of all these teams in really good spots, all these elite weather spots. So for me, I'll probably be off the Blue Jays here. I will have some Yankees bats. It will be their premier bats with Joey Gallo. I'll continue to play Joey Gallo at the bottom of the order. No one's on him. Not having the seasons that he's had in the past, but the guy still has, double dong upside, which is what you're looking for when you're playing guys in DFS. So I like Gallo, Rizzo, Judge. I'd be fine with Donaldson, Stanton. I mean, I'd be focused on those guys. Probably just won't be getting to the Blue Jays though today on this slate.
Yeah, it's definitely a spot. Like I said, like if you just looked at this game and you didn't have any Vegas total, I don't think everyone would be like jumping on the game, but 9.5 total, it's kind of interesting. There's another game coming up though that I really want to talk about. It's the Boston Red Sox. It's the St. Louis Cardinals. This game is definitely one that we should be considering. JT, what are you doing with this one? 10.5 total here. Adam Wainwright, Michael Wacha on the mound. And hey, Cardinals have been smashing the ball. The Red Sox are pretty good at home. Is this a game that you're going to go to here, JT?
Yeah, I think this is one that's very interesting. Bullpens on both sides here, not quite as bad as in Philly and Washington, but haven't been very good of late. And I think I like slightly more here the Cardinals side. The Cardinals have just been smashing the ball, and they've been doing it in their bigger home park. So I do like some of these guys. I mean, Goldschmidt has been on fire. Brendan Donovan has been really good. Tommy Edman hit, I think, a couple of home runs this week. Juan Yepez, if he's in that lineup. Dylan Carlson had a big game the other night. And then on the Red Sox side, I mean, I'm pretty much going to stick to the power guys, Devers, JD Martinez. Even Bobby Dahlbeck has been really good of late. So I think this makes for not quite as interesting a game stack as the one in Washington, but certainly a game that I have some interest in.
Yep. Definitely a game that you got to have some interest in. Hoop, it seems like a game that you would definitely want to game stack up. It's a 10.5 total. You got some decent salary relief too, right? Brendan Donovan at 3.2K at in the 2-hole right there. You got Gorman at 4K. I don't mind him there. He's not bad in the 5-hole. Tyler O'Neill in the 6-hole, 3.6K. Your boy Dylan Carlson, he's down there for cheap. Bader's down there. I mean, there's definitely some good value plays. And on the Red Sox, you got Durant at the top at 3.1K, Verdugo at 3.6. You can definitely make a game stack of this work, and you can definitely play a lot of these value plays with some of these top end bats and get in those good pitchers that you want. So overall, Hoop, what is your thoughts here on this game?
Yeah, definitely in on this game for sure. I mean, on the Cardinal side, I think you can play just about everyone in this lineup. I mean, you get the punt catcher at 2.2K. You get a cheap guy batting second in Brendan Donovan, 3.2K. You can play him at third base or outfield. On DraftKings, Gorman batting fifth is interesting. Tyler O'Neill, very cheap at 3.6K. Carlson is a value play. He was the key to my win on Monday night. So really like this team top to bottom. On Boston, I'd definitely be more specific, though. I mean, I'm just sticking with their top bats. Like you said, you have some value guys here. Duran at 3.1 on DK, Verdugo at 3.6. So makes it easy to stack up the Red Sox and still prioritize some high-quality pitching as well. So it's a very good game. Big total. It's come up 10.5. Both team totals are over 5. Definitely have a lot of interest in this game.
Yep, definitely a game to have interest in. It's one that I'm going to look to get exposure to for sure. Just got to run some lineups and kind of see how things fit, right? Sometimes like things don't fit with like the 5-3s the way you want. But I think you'll be able to make it work here on this slate. Let's go on over to JT. I went to you for that game, correct? Or did you not talk about it yet?
You skipped me on the Toronto game. It was hurtful.
I know. I realized I skipped you on one. So you can go back and talk about that, but I don't think you're playing it that much. I did realize I skipped you on one, though. So my apologies. I was talking in the chat. I was trying to let some people know some stuff. I'm putting out this little three entry max single entry thing for the people today. So I'm going to post it in the Discord chat at 6:30. So I was a little occupied about that. And then there were some haters making fun of my Celtics in the chat. It was very hurtful, JT. But tell us about the Blue Jays and Yankees game.
Yeah, just real quick to add on to what Hoop said. You look at Ross Stripling's game logs, you would think, wow, he's pitched really well. Well, these are the three teams that he's pitched against so far this season: the Royals, the Tigers, and the injured White Sox. This is just the letdown spot of letdown spots for Ross Stripling. The Toronto bullpen, particularly in middle relief, has been really, really challenged so far this season. Yankees didn't put up a lot of runs playing against a really, really good and deep pitching staff of Tampa in Yankee Stadium, but I like this spot for the Yankees here. I think you're going to get them at very, very little ownership in this spot, and it's interesting to me for tournaments.
Yeah, definitely going to be a good spot. Now go on over to the Cardinals Red Sox team. What are you doing there with that one, JT?
Yeah, Cardinals Red Sox I talked about. Definitely interested more so on the Cardinals side, and then I'll have the bigger bets on the Boston side.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, those bottom of the order guys, just one thing to mention with it. Again, I talked about it before, but O'Neill, Carlson, Bader, like those outfielders, and you got Martinez, Verdugo, they're also in the outfield, and Duran. That's going to make it really tough to kind of build out your lineup. So you have to be really smart about how you use your outfielders. I do think you want to use your value guys there if you do a full-on game stack, which I'm sure Hoop will do a full-on game stack of that. Would you agree, Hoop? Like, this is kind of good to get your thoughts on because you're really good at this, and this is a pretty good game for it. Like, if you were going to stack this game up, are you using those cheap value outfielders to make it work? Because like the problem is Vasquez and like the dude who's the guy on the Cardinals is the catcher that's always not so great. Kenizer, like I don't know if I want to play him. I wouldn't know if I want to play Vasquez at 3.7 because that's an expensive tag. Like, how would you work on stacking this up with so many like big bats that you want to get in there along with the value plays?
Yeah, I mean, whenever I do like a game stack like this, I mean, you definitely, if you're full game stacking this, you're going to want to play Kenizer, I don't know if that's how you even pronounce his name, at the catcher position instead of Vasquez. Basically the same guy. You're saving yourself $1,500, gets you some upgrades, and then yeah, you're going to play the value guys and see what studs you can kind of get in. So you're going to probably have like Donovan, Duran, Verdugo if you still want to pay up at pitcher. If you go cheap at pitcher, you can just play all the premium guys. So it kind of depends what you're looking to do. But at the catcher position, I'd go with just the cheaper dude, and you want to play at least a couple of these value guys and kind of mix and match and see what fits.
Yeah, agreed. I do think you want to do the punt catcher like you just mentioned. And then I think those value outfielders, I think it makes a lot of sense. But the reason I talk about it is this could easily be the winner. It's a good spot. So don't want to completely ignore it. And of course, it's a Coors slate. We'll obviously get to that. If you guys could, please hit the like, subscribe to the channel, help us out a ton. We appreciate it. 405 watching, 189 likes. Not doing too bad. Let's get those home. I also want to mention, we have a ton of content for you this weekend. We're going to have baseball for you on Father's Day. Also, we have an MMA show, so you don't want to miss out on that. I'm sure we'll have NASCAR as well. So tons of content over here at Run Pure Sports. You do not want to miss out on that. Let's move on over to the next game. And Marlins and Mets, Carrasco and Lopez. Not really a game I'm dying to play. I know the Mets, they have big bats. They can explode at any time, but Pablo Lopez does not seem like the spot to do it. JT, let's go over to you because I believe, is it Pablo Lopez you like? I think you like him and Sandy Alcantara. I feel like you've been on these Marlins pitchers throughout the year. Is this a spot to attack them, or are you going to just fade this game?
No, I'm just going to fade this game. All things being equal, I mean, Pablo Lopez, he got hit on the wrist his last start out, so kind of not sure exactly what we're going to see from him. He was scratched from his start on Wednesday. Give him a few extra days to get back to tonight. I think he's probably going to be fine, but I mean, we really don't mess around with this Miami bullpen. It's just not a team, very much like the Yankees. You really just don't want to stack against the Yankees just because once you get into that bullpen, it's very difficult. And I mean, Carrasco got blown up last start out against the Angels. I think he'll bounce back fine here. If it weren't such a strong pitching slate, I would have interest in Carrasco, but just the way it sets up, he's at a price point and in a matchup that I'm not going to get there. So I'm not going to be out on this game.
Cool. Game to be out on for me too. Hoop, are we making it 3? Just a game you don't want to go to here? There's tons of other spots.
Yeah, nothing here for me whatsoever.
All right. Well, you might say it again because we got John Gray versus Tariq Skubal. Hoop, back to you. I think it's a quick pass. What are you doing here?
Yeah, I mean, definitely on both these pitchers, 2 low-level offenses here for the most part. I mean, the Rangers got shut down last night in a much better spot. I see nothing here, so off this one as well.
All right, JT, off this game. What are you doing here on this one?
Nothing here on offense.
Yeah, it's tough to go here. Listen, if you want to stack this game up and you have a different opinion, go for it. But that's not our advice. And I don't think you'll be at the top of the leaderboards if you do that. So I'm out on this game. Moving on over to the White Sox and the Astros. Again, another 8 implied total. And it's 2 pitchers like Giolito and Valdez. Are these pitchers I want to pick on this slate? I really don't think so. Yes, they are offenses that can get hot, but I don't think it's the best spot. Hoop, are we just skipping this one as well, or any one-off options maybe you see here?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, a game where it's 2 good enough pitchers, 2 pitchers that I'm not playing tonight just because of the circumstances and the other options. I don't see much interest in this game at all.
Yeah, tough game to go to. JT, how about you? Anyone else? Like, I always feel like you can make the case like Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, like they can always hit the ball out the park. So could like a Luis Robert, as I like to call him, against a lefty, a Jose Abreu. What do you want to do here on this one, JT?
Yeah, no, like I said in the open, I think Valdez is a little bit interesting just with the White Sox coming out of Detroit, facing that team now. Big jump up in competition, big jump up to facing Valdez. The White Sox haven't been all that great, even against left-handed pitching of late. Good left-handed pitching, I should say, clarify. So Valdez is somewhat interesting. I don't think I'll get to him, but probably not going to be playing any bats from this game.
Yeah, tough game to go to. And the reason why it's tough to go to is the next game that we have coming up, right? It's the Padres and the Rockies. 12.5 total here. Kyle Freeland and Mackenzie Gore. I mean, this could be good. Padres total is really high too. If you like the, implied totals, I know Big T is not a huge fan of it. I don't know how you guys feel, but it's almost up to 7. I mean, it's definitely getting up there. And these Padres bats have been hot. Obviously the Wrigley win game helped them out a little bit last week, but do you think this is a good spot to go to these guys? Hoop, how are you handling Coors Field between these Padres and Rockies? It's definitely going to be a pretty good spot to load up on the offense, but you got to think about ownership as well.
Yeah. I mean, clearly a premier game on the slate. I mean, you get Coors Field. It's, massive total sitting at 12.5. It's come up. I mean, the team total for the Padres is approaching 7, which is, that's a big boy number. I mean, you don't typically see 7 team totals. That's what you get here when the Padres coming in super hot, obviously get this matchup with Freeland. And then on the Rocky side, they'll come in a little, lower on with this matchup against Gore. And I'd be more specific with what I do with the Rockies lineup. Not a team that I want to play everyone. I'd be focused more on the righties, Connor Joe, Brendan Rodgers, CJ Crone are guys that I'm looking at. So maybe more of a team to mini stack, I'd say, here on the for the Rockies. And then on the Padres, I mean, you're just going to be able to play it just about everyone here. Don't have the lineups at this point, or at least I'm not seeing them, but it is going to be a team to absolutely load up on tonight. And obviously the premier bat here is going to be Manny Machado. 6-1 on DK. It's expensive, but you can certainly make it work. Luke Voigt at 3.8K is just way, way too cheap. He is a very, very solid place, cheap on both sides tonight. So I'd be looking to get him in my lineups for sure, but it's Coors 12.5 total. You're definitely going to want to get some exposure here.
Yeah, I mean, JT, this is definitely a game to get exposure to. Hoop brought up a great point. Voigt against the lefty. He's a great guy to get in your lineups at that price tag. It's just too cheap. I'm sure everyone's going to be jamming in Manny Machado. Obviously, a good play. If Profar's at the top at 4.3, some of you don't want to ignore. And the one thing that's nice about Coors today is these Padres, they just got here. So typically what happens is the prices haven't been driven up as much. By Sunday, they'll probably be up higher. You got Nola at 3.4, pretty cheap. You got Kim at the shortstop position at 3.3. Grisham, 3.1. You got, I'm assuming, who else will they put in the outfield there? I guess they could go this Jose Azocar guy, but they can mix it up, right? There's different guys that you can get for value plays that could pop in there. And then this Rocky side, we haven't really been on it lately, but Mackenzie Gore, I'm not that scared of him. I think he's a guy that you would definitely stack against, and the Rockies will definitely not be owned today. I think the Padres are going to be owned. I think people are going to those other offenses over the Rockies personally. How about you, JT? What's your thoughts here on this Coors game and the best way to attack it?
Yeah, from an ownership perspective, absolutely. I think the Rockies are going to be lower owned, but they do get the tougher matchup. Mackenzie Gore, up until his last start, was absolutely phenomenal. The last start, of course, in San Diego against the Rockies. And he was due for a little bit of regression, a little bit of batted ball regression. The one thing I will say about the Padres, why I won't go to a guy like Azocar, and there's some of these other guys too. I was watching the games in Wrigley, And Bob Melvin has been out, and they've got an acting manager. I don't know if he is more of the Gabe Kapler-like, where analytics are everything, but he was pinch hitting some guys earlier in that game in the 5th, 6th inning of a game where the Padres were well ahead. So I think that I'm going to stick to the big bats on the Padres here. Machado, Luke Voigt, depending on who's in a catcher, if it's Alfaro, I love that. And then even Jake Cronenworth from the left side. He's been smashing left-handers. He's always hit left-handed pitching very well from the left side of the plate. And I think he's one guy that may be lower owned. Trent Christian really hasn't done a lot, but his price is cheap. And I think he's someone that I can consider including in those stacks as well. And then probably just keep it to the guys like Connor Joe or CJ Cron or even Charlie Blackmon, who hits left-handed pitching pretty well. That's probably where I'd keep my leans on the Rockies side.
Yep, Rockies and the Padres are a pretty good game to go to. Hoop, before we kind of go back to some MLB, obviously we're waiting on some likes. We're waiting on like 90 likes. So I know that people will push that home. They got about 15 minutes till around the end of the show, but I see our boy Keg on Twitter. He said, our boy Snyder's got to be stiff right now because apparently Morikawa is pushing up the leaderboard. So how's the sweat going for golf for you? It didn't go well for me on my main team because I did not wake up for Abraham Answer. The rest was good, but curious to get what your, thoughts are on so far, how the Open's played out and how your teams are looking.
Yeah, so far so good. A lot of Rory, he's up there. A lot of Rahm, he's at the top, and a few of my key value guys are looking pretty good. Guys that we talked about on the show, and guys that we talked about obviously in our content. And Snyder's got to be very excited because Morikawa is currently tied atop the leaderboard, and Brooks is playing pretty well too. 2 guys that he talked about on the show, and 2 guys that we made fun of him about. So the trend continues where if Snyder brings up guys, these low-owned guys, and we make fun of them, they tend to perform quite well. So we need to start taking note of that. But it's been good so far, almost halfway home. We'll see where we're at on Sunday.
Yeah, and don't miss out on all the Showdown content that we have over here at Run Pure Sports. We'll have a playbook for you guys. On top of that, we're going to have a live show for PGA. So we have it tonight. It's on the Mayo Media Network, and it's also on our channel. And then it'll also be on the premium side for the round 4, where there's some big prize pools. So you definitely want to be checking that out. We got all the sports over here at Run Price. So go sign up at Run Pure Sports right now and get in on that. But that's enough about this baseball game. We talk about those Padres and Rockies, obviously one of the bigger games on this slate, 12.5 total. You got to think about how you're going to approach it ownership wise for sure. Let's head on over to the 7 total with Daniel Dusty Lynch versus Frankie Montas tonight. And it's a 7 total. We were not interested in 8 totals. I doubt we're interested in the 7-1. JT, I'll go over to you. What do you want to do here with this game?
Yeah, I don't think I'll have a lot of interest. Certainly no interest in the Royals, as I like Montas a good bit. I don't know. There's a lot of swing and miss in this Oakland lineup, but when they do hit, they only hit lefties. It's just on this slate. Certainly the A's aren't going to be the highest scoring team. I mean, there's almost zero probability that happens here. So I think this is one where I'll just cross it off and move on to the next one.
All right, we're going to cross that one off and move on to the next. I'm going to do that. I believe Hoop is doing it. I don't see Hoop stacking a 7 total. Hoop, how are you handling this game?
Zero interest. I mean, there's just nothing here for me. And again, like I've talked about quite a bit, you're going to have to, your offensive guys tonight are going to have to put up some points. There's going to be teams that score 10 runs, maybe even more, maybe multiple teams that fit that category. And you're not going to get it from this game. So no, thank you whatsoever.
Yeah, and one thing to mention, like we got 3 games left. We're going to go quick here. So we got to get those likes home, push them in there. Then we're going to do the stacks, and then hopefully we can get out those plays of the day. So got to get it to 300. If not, we'll save it for that Discord chat for the members. So be sure to hit that like. And again, subscribe to the channel and check out when all of our content goes live. And I should have mentioned this. We're going to have a Saturday MLB show tomorrow. So be sure to check that out. It'll be over here on the YouTube channel. It'll likely be earlier in the day because I think we want to be able to make sure we get out the content for you guys because we know people are kind of running around sometimes in the afternoon doing stuff. So we got a show tomorrow for MLB. So be sure to check that out. And if you subscribe to the channel, you'll get notified when it goes live. But that'll wrap it up for that one. Let's go on over to the next game. We got the Twins, we got the Diamondbacks, and we got Madison Bumgarner versus Devin Smeltzer, which these are not 2 pitchers that I'm interested in playing DFS wise. And if you're not interested in them DFS, so we got to like them for the offense a little bit, right? I mean, it is in Arizona, not a bad ballpark. I don't know if the roof is open, but like Byron Buxton against a bad lefty, that's always intriguing. And all these Twins, right? All these righties can smash them. Like Gary Sanchez in the 4-hole helps fill out a catcher position nicely. Luis Arraez, even though it's lefty, the guy just always gets on base. JT, I'll go over to you first. Do you have any interest in these Twins bats here against Madison Bumgarner?
I have interest. I'll tell you who I have interest in here. It's Christian Walker. He's just been absolutely on fire. He gets Devin Smeltzer, the highest expected earned run average on the slate tonight. He's got one of the lowest BABIP against in play. But again, we're facing the same thing where it depends on what you're looking for here. Are you looking for ownership leverage? Both these teams are in a good spot, but it's not quite the highest total, right? So is this going to be an outlier for one of these teams? It could be. And that's why I'll have some pieces of both teams. You mentioned Buxton. He's been pretty much back to being Byron Buxton again. But Christian Walker here on the Diamondback side is a low-owned play that's a pivot off of some of the much higher-priced, higher-owned first baseman on this slate that I think could do some work here against Devin Smeltzer and the Twins bullpen.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad spot for sure for these guys. Hoop, I kind of see the Twins more as a mini stack today. I don't really see them as like a 5-man stack that I'm dying to get to, but if they're on the winner today, it wouldn't surprise me. And I think they're going to be like not as chalky today for sure. Hoop, what's your thoughts here on this game? Or maybe you're interested in the Diamondbacks. So what are you doing here?
Not as interested in the Diamondbacks because I just keep going back to this thought in my head where if I'm stacking a team, I want to, see them scoring 10, 11 runs. I just don't know if the Diamondbacks can do it. I do think the Twins can do it, and I do kind of like this lineup. Buxton for sure, and like you said, you don't really need to be worried about ownership all that much. They're falling way behind all these other teams in terms of ownership. Buxton, Correa, Sanchez, that would be your mini, and I think that's totally acceptable. But I don't mind playing a guy like Urshela or Jose Miranda. You got a cheap outfield at the bottom in Calstino, or however you pronounce his name. It is a little bit harder though to full stack them, but they're clearly in play here, and I think they could put up those runs to potentially win the slate against Bumgarner. When Bumgarner's off, the ball's leaving the yard. So certainly interested in the Twins. I don't think they're going to be highly owned at all.
Yeah, and I just looked quick. I don't see the roof status for Arizona being open. So, and that would have probably reflected a little more in the total too. You probably see it at like 9.5 or 10. It'd probably be up there a little bit more for sure. We should go to this next game. Hoop, we're going to go to you first because it's a Friday and we got the Dodgers and they have a decent total. It's 8 altogether, but it's because Kershaw's on the mound. So a lot more of it is on the Dodgers side rather than the Guardian side. It's Zach Plesac. I don't think people are going to the Dodgers today. They seem like an offense that will be underlooked. Are you going to load up on them? Also, when you put them in your lineups, it's hard to get them. You might have to do like a John Gray and like a Dusty Daniel Lynch build to be able to make that full-on Dodgers stack work with those big bats. So how are you handling the Dodgers? Are you playing them? And if you do play them, what do you do with the pitchers? Because I think it's going to make it a little difficult with those price tags.
Yeah, so, it's a Friday night, and we know one thing, this MLB season, the Dodgers have treated Hoop really good on Friday nights. But it's Friday nights where I need to go to where I'm going to be going to bed early. And I'm not going to be able to sweat it out tonight. Kind of, I'm at the lake house, going to have a little bit of fun. I'll be up late. So I will be there for the sweat if needed. So not going to the Dodgers tonight. No, that's not the real reason. The real reason is they've been cold. They just haven't been putting up runs to win slates. And I think Plesac's good enough. And then you combine that with the point that you made. They're expensive. So you're making like big time sacrifices in your lineup. Mookie Betts 6'1", Trey Turner 6'1". Freddie Freeman 5'3". That's where he should be. Muncy 5'1". Like if you want to play the core Dodgers tonight, you are going to be going cheap at pitcher. Just not willing to do it. They have not been putting up runs. The offense is just kind of stagnant right now. So I'm just fine being off them. Yes. Okay. This is one of the best offenses in baseball. They could easily go ahead and go off and win the slate. But I'm not going there tonight for the few reasons that I mentioned.
Well, that's surprising. Hoop is not going to the Dodgers on a Friday.
Can't do it tonight. But I honestly though, but like you said, these guys are expensive. So you play them, you're making big time sacrifices in your lineup.
Yeah, I think the best way to figure out what to do with the Dodgers is and I think I did this the other day with the Jays when I was kind of working through the builder. The Jays were really expensive. I wanted to make sure I got the big bats, and even like the guys at the bottom, right? Matt Chapman was 4.4, Espinal was 4.6. They still had some pretty high price tags. I think you go into the optimizer, you run run all Dodger stacks, see what it gets you, see what it kind of works with as well. And then from there, maybe lock, just the 5 most expensive guys, and then see what it gets you, see what pitchers it gets you, what mini stacks, and see if you like how it plays out. I think it's definitely worth looking at. And that's one of the best ways to figure it all out. That's kind of my thoughts there on that one. JT, Hoop isn't on the Dodgers on a Friday. He always loves to load up on them because it's been really good to him. What about you, JT? Are you playing the Dodgers here? Do you think they're a nice contrarian stack, or does just the math not check out for you here?
Yeah, they have faced some really good pitching, some good pitching in Chicago, some good pitching in San Francisco. And now they get Zach Plesac, who is the worst pitcher that they faced in 2 weeks. So I've got to have some interest here. I think if you go to the bottom of this lineup to guys like Bellinger and Gavin Lux, to include them in a 5-man, then you could get guys that I'm really interested in, which is Trey Turner, Will Smith, and Max Muncy. So I think that makes a nice, affordable 5-man. They're not going to be my primary team, but against Zach Plesac, I mean, the numbers are just atrocious for him. And on the road, Dodgers Friday night, after a couple of weeks of tough competition, they're skidding a little bit, losing 9 of 13. This is a good spot for them to get right.
Passing the torch. It's your turn, JT. Take the wheel. They're all yours.
There you go.
There you go, JT. I'm going to look at them for sure. I don't know if they're going to end up making one of my teams, but I'm going to look at it for sure, because I think that's the best way to do it and figure out, hey, does this work? And I do think we have a slate where we got John Gray and Daniel Lynch. We have a chance to do it. As crazy as it sounds, Daniel Lynch is a good play today. He's definitely one of those cheap pitchers that I think you go with, and maybe you can make Montas and Gray work with it. I still think that's possible because he's only 8.3K. So definitely check that out. Check out the core plays and see what we're doing over there. DC's player pool. We got the Up to Lock show coming up after this. You don't want to miss out on the takes from those guys. They'll be breaking it all down for you there. So don't miss out on that. And JT, this is what I want to do. We got a little bit of time. We've gone pretty quick through this slate. I think it's because we had a lot of duds that we've been able to skip. We have a lot of good games, but we need 60 more likes, 423 watching. So give the people one last motivational speech while we go through the last game. Then we go through the stacks, and then we decide, is it going to the Discord or are we giving out those plays?
Well, I mean, with the number that's watching, 423, 239 likes, that means that there are, nearly 200 people who are just sitting there. Either they've lost their limbs in terrible accidents or they're just being rude. So we're definitely not going to be lenient today. We're going to either get to 300 or the plays are going to go in the Discord. I think it's a good night to want these plays because it's a tricky slate. It's a big slate. And so we're going to be sticking with the 300 here.
Yep, I think that's true. And Lando wants to talk about the FanDuel prices in the chat, which there are some really good FanDuel prices. One of them, Tyler O'Neill's 2.5 or 2.6K. Don't mind that. Hoop, have you seen any FanDuel prices that kind of intrigue you? I think some of the pitching prices are pretty interesting too. Obviously, on these slates, you don't like the Dodgers as much on DK, but maybe on FanDuel you get behind them because you got some cheaper price tags. Like Daniel Lynch is 7.3K over there. If you play him, you can just get whatever you want. You got John Gray at 8.6. Any FanDuel price tags stick out to you there, Hoop?
I will say they've done a better job with the pitching pricing. You got, Rodon is 10.7, Montas is 10.2. So those guys are up there. Scooble's 9.9. So their pitching pricing is much, much better, but you start going to the hitting and it's much, much worse. All these Padres guys are super cheap. Aaron Judge at 3.6, Buxton at 4.2. That's too cheap. There's just a lot of cheap guys. The Rockies guys like Connor Joe at 3K. That's a cheap price tag. But yeah, like you said, the Dodgers are a little bit more affordable over there. 3.7 for bets. Max Muncy at 2.6K. So yeah, definitely be more willing to play the Dodgers over there. You don't have to make the sacrifices like you have to do on DK.
Yep, definitely think there's some really nice price tags over there that we definitely have to talk about. So good to see that we can get some FanDuel talk in there. I know sometimes the people want to get that. Let's go on over to the last game as we get those likes pushed home. JT, Angels and Mariners, 7.5 total. Robbie Ray, we know he can give up home runs. I'm not Xing Mike Trout from the pool. He's definitely a one-off you have to consider, but he's not obviously that easy to get in your lineups because he's expensive, and there's a lot of good expensive bats that you want to get onto your teams. And then we got Michael Lorenzen against the Mariners. Doesn't seem like a game I'm looking to load up on, but What are your thoughts here on this one, JT Hayes?
Yeah, it's a pretty low total. And again, it's the same situation. On another slate, Michael Lorenzen would be in my pool at that 7.1 price tag, given the Mariners' struggles of late and their strikeout numbers. He's probably not going to make it tonight, but I wouldn't say you're crazy if you played him. There's rain out there. It's going to be cool, which means the roof is going to be closed. So I expect much more of a pitcher's duel. And Ohtani is maybe the guy I would look at here in the lefty-lefty, just because absolutely no one is going to play him. I am going to cross Mike Trout out. I've been doing this, crossing out the guys who hit 1 million home runs the day before. So if he does it again tonight, he'll beat me. But I'm going to focus on these other guys and really just expect this to be much more of a pitcher's duel than anything else.
Yeah, I'm not looking to play this game. Hoop, are you looking to play this game? 7.5 total here. I'm sure you're just out on it.
Yeah, I mean, not too much interest. I mean, I think you could play Mike Trout, obviously. Robbie Ray, when he's not right, the ball leaving the yard. I think you could even play Ohtani. Should be, pretty contrarian, both those guys. But not much interest here. And then the Mariners, I mean, they could be a pretty sneaky team. I mean, they have their solid lineup out there as well. Lorenzen's not like a shutdown pitcher by any means. Their team totals 4, but again, I just keep going back to that point where I feel like you're going to need a team that can score 10 runs tonight. Can they score 10? I don't know if they can. So likely we'll be off of them in terms of like full stacking.
Yep. Nice little, not the full stack there. I don't think it can get the job done. Overall though, it's a really good slate, like a lot of good bats to go to. So let's give up our stacks, and after the stacks, then we'll give the plays of the day out if it gets home. If not, we'll just move on to the Discord chat, which it feels like we're on our way to do that. Let's go to you first, JT. I want to get your stacks. Who are you looking at on this slate? What fits with the pitchers? What are you doing here?
Yeah, I like the Phillies. I like the Nationals. I like the Cardinals as a full stack. And I also have to like the Padres here a little bit, and the Dodgers. So that's 5. That's probably a few too many, but those are, as of right now, teams that I'm looking at as far as primary teams.
I mean, 5's not bad. It's a big slate, JT. I don't know how many teams you're playing today, of course, but hey, there's guys that play every single one, right? They just put they go into the lineup builder and they say, give me 5 to 10% of each stack, which I don't know if that's the right approach to do. I mean, some people might have success with it, some don't, but I don't think that's the way that I would approach it personally. Hoop, let's go over to you. Who are your top stacks here on this slate?
Yeah, the Padres obviously stand out. Their total sitting at 7. I like the Rockies. I don't think they'll be all that owned, and they rolled out a pretty good lineup here to face a left-handed pitcher, Joe, Daza, Crone, Rogers. Interested in all those guys. Grichuk at the bottom, he's been a disaster, but I don't mind playing him. Definitely in on the Phillies. And then the team, the Nationals were a team that I definitely like. I don't think they'll have much ownership at all.
All right. For me, I think right now, and it's tough. I'm not trying to say just the top offenses for sure. It sounds chalky, but I'm definitely not ignoring the Padres. If I'm playing the Padres, I'm thinking about my pitchers. I'm also thinking about what I'm doing with my one-offs, my 2-man stacks, how to handle that. I think that's very valuable. On top of that, I like the Cardinals and I like the Red Sox. I really like that game stack. That's definitely one I think I'm going to get exposure to. When I kind of get off the show, I'm going to finish up my little thing that I put on the site. It's new there, 3 max single entry stuff. So I'll probably have a game stack at least on one of them. Want to see how that kind of fits together. Think that's pretty good overall. But yeah, that's going to be the routes that I'm going right now. Those are my 3 teams. And then I'll probably add a 4th on the piece of content I have. So be sure to check that out. Don't know which one it's going to be yet, but definitely want to get some exposure to some of these other offenses. I want to look at the Dodgers. I want to see what they're going to kind of look like now that we got the lineup out and we got these cheaper pitchers, and see what it fits with, because sometimes once lineups come out, some of those secondary stacks become easier because there's more value plays that you can go to there. So I think I stalled long enough, but it's not enough. We're at 267 likes. So we're not gonna be able to get the plays of the day home. JT, unless you really want to be generous, I'm going to let the floor be open to you. How do we handle this? And what do you want to say for your last thoughts?
No, I mean, we're not even close. I can't even grade. It's like when you're in college and you say, look, this was a great effort. You didn't get there. I'm going to bump you up to the next grade level, right? I don't even see that. I don't even see the effort. The effort was just, it was, not from everyone. Obviously, we're grateful for the 268 of you. that are happy to be here, but the rest of you who are unhappy to be here, I wish you'd do something else because you're hurting the 268. That's the way this works.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like JT, we're spending our nice Friday to do this nice free show for the people. We got Hoop, who's not even in the house setup, right? It's how it is, JT.
He's on vacation, taking time, and it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
Well, I'll tell you one group of people that's going to appreciate the plays of the day not going live here, and that's the members. The members love when the YouTube chat misses on the likes because they get the plays of the day all to themselves. Plays of the day have been treating us well, so the members win as always today on this Friday especially.
Yep,
they root for it. And you know what? Honestly, I think we're gonna have to do a metrics breakdown, and we can do this. We're gonna find out which ones of the members aren't hitting the like button, so that the plays aren't.
Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah. So yes, that's a good point.
It's listen, we encourage the like though, but just because we want to get the good mojo flowing. It didn't flow there, but we'll get it flowing in the Discord chat, right? We'll be chatting it up. We'll be talking our favorite stacks, our cores, all that stuff for you guys in there. So you do not want to miss out on that. You don't want to miss out on MMA this weekend. It's a pretty nice card. I believe it's in Austin. I think Title will probably be at that event too. So that should be a good time. We got NASCAR. We got 2 baseball shows coming up for you this weekend. We got a ton of content over here at Rumpier Sports. And don't forget about the golf showdown stuff. You don't want to miss out on the Showdown playbook. You do not want to miss out on the live shows. Tons of content over here at Rumpier Sports. Be sure to check all that out. But that is going to wrap it up for us, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us here on the MLB Swing for the Fences show. We'll be back tomorrow for me, Mangone, JT, and Hoop. We will see you guys later.